So yeah, we're here again for What the Fauna, and this week, for introductions for people just getting in, my name is Whitney. This is Jen.
Hello. Welcome,
I
my fans, my adorers.
Yes, Jen had a great idea. We're going to do a podcast where we just talk as adults about crazy animal stuff, and that means we will be using language of various natures, not limited to fucking swearing and things of that nature, etc. So,
I hope we can use new and ingenious ways of swearing as well.
At
Why
one point
limit
in time in our
ourselves?
lives, Jen and I worked as stagehands, so we got some language to us.
Seen quite a bit.
Yes.
Apparently, touring stagehands with heavy metal shows are kind of the new sailors. They're malnourished.
Put that way. Anybody.
They're pale, they're malnourished, and they swear a lot.
True story.
Yeah.
So we'd like to talk about animals. We both actually met in college with various biology classes that we took together. She's still interested in animals. Jen does her own reptile rescue and other animals, or just reptile rescue?
Just large tortoises, actually. I only take the 3 largest size tortoises there are. The little ones that, whatever.
And the Galapagos?
No, I'm just kidding. I'll take the Galapagos. If someone out there has a Galapagos tortoise that they would... No, we'll send those to a zoo, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. So I got a story on that too, actually.
Ooh, tortoises going to zoos? We haven't even started the episode already.
It's a bad one. It's a bad zookeeper story.
Bad zookeeper. A bad zookeeper is a huge array of what you could be doing.
Yes. So, and that leads into my
expertise.
I've worked in the zoo field for about 15 years, got my degree in animal ecology, and now I do pet behavior and work with mostly domestics nowadays. But that's where my expertise comes from. And today we're actually going to dip a little bit more into my work history, because I did work for a place called the Kangaroo Conservation Center, which is no longer around. You can't see anymore. But
they rescued.
They bred kangaroos.
They bred kangaroos. It was kind of a kangaroo sanctuary. I'm using air quotes for the people again.
Sanctuary. It's a conservation center is what they called it. But
okay, I was saying for all those rogue kangaroos that are just running around. Where was it again? Nebraska? Or
I don't know. Were there some rogue ones?
No, I'm talking about where the sanctuary, the conservation.
That was in Georgia. Yeah,
okay. I was saying, for all those rogue kangaroos that are just jumping around Georgia, not taking care of themselves, you could capture one and bring it to the sanctuary where it'll be properly taken care of.
Right. No, they what they did was they actually bred kangaroos for zoological stuff, and one of the things that we were well known for was in zoological bloodlines, you tend to start diverging a little bit by location because it's much harder to ship animals from country to country. So all of our bloodline was pretty well directly related to either straight from Australia or Europe. So ours was not related to the U.S. bloodlines that much. So we were very popular to acquire dogs.
Okay, but for American bloodlines, you want, because everybody who doesn't know about genetics, that's completely fine. But we're going to help you learn. First rule: spread the genes apart.
Right,
Get rid of the recessive traits. They're usually quite bad. Look at the royal families. Just look at that, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Like, don't do that to him.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, yeah. So we did that. We had wallabies, and we had all three of the big species, and the one that's in between. So we had red kangaroos, eastern and western gray kangaroos, and the Wallaroo. And then we had agile wallabies, and we did not have one of my favorites that I never did get to work with, which was the tree kangaroo. Which a lot of people
those guys are so cool. Yes. All right, if you haven't guessed, by the way, we are going to talk about kangaroos today.
Yes.
Which leads to the first question. Whitney, what are we talking about? The large 4 species of kangaroo? We're not getting into wallaby.
I'm going to talk about everything that I worked with, so I'm going to talk about all the macropods, which I always like to make jokes that these are the true big feet, because that's what macropod means.
It is awesome, and I love the word. It just rolls off the tongue like gazebo. Macropod.
macropode. Yeah, so they are the actual true Bigfoot. And at one point in time, supposedly, I haven't gone through the history stuff, but we would tell stories that basically the early explorers from a distance thought that the kangaroos were actually like humans, which, yeah,
that's a strange tiny head, big.
Well,
oh,
distance,
did
but
they think that
they see them standing up like this with
yeah.
their hands, like a bipedal thing standing there. It looks like an animal man, which really makes, I think it was the Howling 2 or 3 where they went to Australia. Can't remember which.
Okay.
And and the werewolves were actually marsupials.
Well, no, I'm just thinking about like one of the great words that I heard today. Okay, so their family macropodia. Yeah. But one of the other great words I heard today was pentapodia.
Pentapedaling.
Pentapedaling, which is dealing with the feet, but it's 5 because their tail counts.
Actually moving with the tail. So they use their tail as a 5th foot.
So I'm just go ahead. Sorry. No, I was just thinking of like I'm thinking of these people who've just come to this new land and they're looking out and they see this very muscular thing with its pentapode between its legs, going, "Dear God, what is that?"
Yeah, and the thing is, like a lot of people see the meme of just the buff kangaroo just kind of like there. The thing,
and they are buff.
They are buff, especially the males, because they're basically walking by doing push-ups. So what they do, my dogs are being very at it today. Xander who has to tell the world about stuff.
That's okay.
So they put their front paws down, so it'd be like you going down for a push-up, and then they use their tail to lift their hind legs up, and they swing their feet forward, and then they put their feet down, and then they kind of like inchworm a little bit. Then they put their front paws, and then the tail moves. And
so one question I did have today, so we're going to talk a lot about their locomotion because their locomotion is fascinating. But one thing that I watched, so I watched a lot of videos, read a lot of stuff today, which, by the way, I have gained a complete and total new respect for the didgeridoo because every single video you read or you watch about a kangaroo has a didgeridoo background. I kind of almost miss it. At first I was like, what the fuck? Now I'm like, it's got a beat to it. Kind of digging the didgeridoo. Cool. It is.
I had to listen to it every day for like 4 years. So
because apparently wherever kangaroos go, didgeridoos must accompany them.
You gotta do that. Yes.
You know, it's like I don't know, Scottish sheep and bagpipes. I don't know, but anyway, so all of these videos, they're always showing when a kangaroo moves, its hind legs are always moving together.
Right.
Never do they work independently. Is there like a fused bone system, or does that have to do with their tendons?
They can totally move them separately, and they
can.
What they're kicking, yes.
They just usually do use them together because it makes sense.
Yeah, it's just an efficient form of motion. If you actually look at a lot of creatures that are bipedal, most of them move their legs simultaneously. Birds do the same thing. If you watch how they move, they actually do this little hop maneuver, like passeriforms and things.
Okay.
They don't walk like us with one leg in front of the other. Actually, it's a very difficult and form of motion. So it's actually more, it just works better for that. There are advantages for ours. For example, so basically when they move together, since they do that hop, and they're much better at hopping than they are just kind of just walking like we are. Like a couple times I got cornered by the animal, and usually a male that was in breeding phase, and he just got angry because, well, these are his
How dare you be near him?
No, it's how dare I be near the females. I mean, that's their job, is to protect the whole group.
So, guys, okay, so here's another, I'm going to just jump in here with tidbits of great things. So the alpha male is called a boomer.
Yes.
so the boomer.
Do you know why they're called a boomer?
They jump the highest?
It's not because they were born in the, like, what is that? The 50s and 60s.
40s and 50s, yeah.
40s, 50s. Yeah.
These are good boomers. Why are they called
Basically, the way they warn the group, and all of them do this, but the boomers are the biggest, so they have the most powerful leg strength. They just smash their feet into the ground, creating a boom sound, and that is the warning sign for the rest of the group,
mob.
The mob.
Yeah, they're called a mob.
Mob. Yeah, that's the warning for the mob that something's up, and then they usually, it's kind of like the deer making a warning sounds or something.
Okay, so that's what they do. Okay, that's pretty cool though, because like they're all down there eating grass, and sure enough, wham, wham to the ground. Like, oh, I should look up now.
Yes. Huh. So as I was saying, the two form of motion is very good at going straight. It makes it very hard to turn and move sideways when all your legs are going at the same spot.
So if you're being pursued by a mob of kangaroos, serpentine.
Usually you're not being pursued by a mob. You're being pursued by one male.
That's you're going to be technical. Serpentine.
But yes, serpentine. Well, usually you don't even want a serpentine because they will adjust and go after you that way. What you need to do is find a tree or something that you can run circles around to put between you and them, because you can run around it faster than they can.
Or try and run around them as they try to charge. I'm not
sure. Actually, I have a scar on my arm that's about basically the whole length of my arm. It was the stupidest, most lame scar I've ever gotten.
It looks pretty impressive, though. It's a good 6 inches long there.
It's long, but it wasn't that deep. It shouldn't have scarred, except for the fact that his claws were fucking dirty. So it's fun fact: infected wounds.
Leave bigger scar.
Infection will cause a scar better. So what happened was he was a juvenile male. He wasn't even that big. He was maybe
what
70,
kind?
80
Are we talking red kangaroo?
Red kangaroo. He was a juvenile male red kangaroo.
So one of the big guys.
Big and tough because we put him in there to breed, but he was like, basically he's the equivalent of a kangaroo 16-year-old. He comes to fight me, and the thing is, he's only like 4 or 5 feet tall, and I am a 6'3" man. Fairly large, so I just hold him back with my hand on his chest.
Oh, that's insulting. It's like, go ahead, try and swing. Go ahead.
His little front claws grabbed my arm, and just one of the nails, the grooming nail that he has, just kind of like scraped my arm, and then just created this perfect line. I didn't think much of it because it was barely a wound, but then next thing you know, I have a scar that's like 10 years later, it's still there.
All right, so I'm going to back us up though a little bit. So we're talking about the macropods, and the macropods are all marsupials who have the tail, who hop, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, they also have the other thing is they have that big feet. I mean, that's in the name.
Okay. Oh yeah,
big feet that they use for hopping.
So they're usually separated, if I'm correct, into the 4 largest, which there's the 4 big guys who are typically called kangaroo. And then there are smaller species which are typically called wallabies or their other names, correct?
Yes, but there's even more. So
I read a Wallaroo, and I was like, what the fuck is a Wallaroo?
Wallaroo is basically,
is it like a donkey? What?
So
or mule?
I think in the classification style, basically they were one of the last ones that they found. So they had wallabies. They just classified anything that's like under, I want to say 45 pounds.
So it's almost generic. It's almost like you are a wallaby now.
And I mean, if you look at the early naming systems, that's basically what it was. It was like whatever the eyeballs told the people.
Which we are very fortunate to have the word kangaroo, even because you know how like Europeans went around and went, you look like a naked fairy armadillo, and it's like a naked fairy armadillo. What the fuck? Kangaroo is actually derived from an indigenous tribe name. I believe it's Ugaroo. Ugaroo is the original name, and the Europeans misheard it a little bit, but it became kangaroo. But at least we still have some of that. Because the kangaroo is an incredibly sacred animal to most indigenous people of Australia and the islands there.
Yes.
They're bossy.
That's, as I understand, that's basically it. We just kind of, as a lot of things, we just mispronounced the name that natives were already calling it.
It could have been something else. It could have been dry earth giant bunny.
Right. Exactly.
I'm happy for the word kangaroo.
Right. And they thought, well, as I said, some of the early explorers thought that these were like from a distance, they thought that they were people briefly. Because they were like, what the heck? Because they didn't see creatures that large go bipedal.
Mhm.
Mice kind of do, that
Only
like
for
this.
very and kangaroos are, as you mentioned before, the largest animal to be like that hops. Otherwise, other than kangaroos, anything else that
As a
hops is
primary
like
form of motion, yeah. Yeah.
exactly a frog, maybe a bunny. Kangaroos are
Um,
gigantic for that
yes.
style of
And there were
locomotion.
historically there were some larger, and there were even
Mhm.
carnivorous kangaroos way back in the day.
I read that. Can you imagine one of those guys coming and trying to eat your face off?
Yeah, just
That's
hopping
awesome.
like
A
crazy.
bigger kangaroo, like a 400-pound kangaroo who wants to eat your face.
Yes.
Fuck, I'm scared. And the
Yeah.
indigenous people of Australia, god damn, are you badasses.
And now so we have the wallabies, we have those. You also end up with
The
uh
Wallaroo? Are we gonna
you got the
what is a
wallaroo. That the thing is basically they defined a wallaby as basically the average size is under 45 pounds. Then it's a wallaby. If it's the big ones, then it's a kangaroo. And then of course they find one that's in between. So they're just like, we're calling it a wallaroo then. Real original
so the
naming
red
process.
kangaroos are the really big guys that you see, which are I forgot my notes.
Actually, so people always think of the red kangaroos as the big ones. Really, there's barely any difference between the eastern gray, the western gray, and the red kangaroo. And actually, the eastern gray kangaroo is the same size as the red kangaroo.
They're just
in
gray.
general. Yeah,
Bitches.
but it's gray.
Okay.
So and even
how big do they get up to? Like, what size are we talking about? Like, what's an average male size, and then what's like, I don't know, like a linebacker?
I'd say the average male size would be about 180 pounds plus or minus 40.
Okay.
Would be a good range that I've run across. And
Females, they're was it dimorphic? It's where the females are significantly smaller.
yes, so the females are generally about 1/3 the size of the males, one
Oh
quarter to
God.
1/3. Yeah, so the females are only going to be between 45 and 80 pounds, give or
Okay.
take. Although I did run into one. We got one that we were going to send to, I think, Japan or something. So we caught her up. Her name was Bitsy. And
Bitsy. Why does this sound ironic?
we were like, holy cow, she's like 100 pounds. Like, this is a huge female. Like, even our fat females, like, she's outweighing them, but she's just tall, too. We're like, what the hell's going on? So we go to do a pouch check, and we find 2 nipples. We couldn't find all 4 nipples. But then we found 2 testicles in the pouch.
Oh, 2. Oh. So you found a hermaphroditic. Oh, interesting.
So then we started joking that we should have named her Itsy or Itsy.
Itsy? Oh, Jesus.
But yeah, we didn't know for the longest time because basically she was born and then she was put out into the what we call the bachelorette field. And until they need to go do something for a medical thing, we don't bring them in that often. So they had a huge amount of land to just kind of go explore.
Females kind of they kind of reach sexual maturity though about 1.5 to 2 years was what I read. But the males, they reach sexual maturity about that time, maybe a little longer. But males typically don't get to breed with the females until they're 7 or 8 because they're
and that has to do
not.
Yes,
they're just not strong enough or big enough to take on the boomer.
Yeah, that's basically the gist of it. So, hi guys. Sorry, my dog.
All right, so anatomically,
really
where do you want to start on these guys? Do you want to start?
Yeah,
which end do you want to start?
You're right about the breeding time frame for the big kangaroos. We have they don't get to breed until about 7 because basically you have to earn the mob. So there's only generally one breeding male to the mob.
Yeah, there's a couple other juvenile males who aren't really challenging, but there's usually just the one.
Well, once they get to the age where they can breed, they get kicked out.
Ah.
So you might find
standard. Are they Mormon? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Sometimes you do find bachelor mobs because safety in numbers.
Yep.
But until they're big enough, they can't really compete. And the thing with kangaroos is they're kind of like reptiles. They don't stop growing. So
Did not know.
they'll hit like 99% of their like size by a certain point, but they still are growing just a little bit each year,
Just a little
like
bit.
a reptile. You
Okay.
would.
So and the males, I love the males. They don't just fight. They're awesome. They like pose. They pose for the female attention as well as to like prove the other males that they're not as cool. That's why you see so many awesome photos of these male kangaroos just like strutting it, Arnold Schwarzenegger buffing out because they're trying to show the females, look at me, good breeding stock. And they're showing the males, like the other males, they're like, you want to fuck? You want to fuck with me?
You want to fuck with me? I'll fuck with you.
You want to go? You want to go? I actually saw so many videos. It was like two frat boys where they both stand up as tall as they can, kind of put their shoulders back, and kind of like look at each other and like, and then they throw. And I was like, all right. I totally wanted to see the rest of the kangaroos. Hold me back. Hold me back.
Yeah. And they'll grab each other on the shoulders. They'll hold each other's balance. And then they just start kicking each other. Well, they start using that tail for balance and kicking each other in the abdomen, which is actually their thickest area of skin. They're basically
they've evolved thick skin there, so they can handle those kicks.
Now you'll also see them rubbing their chest on the ground and on the females and everywhere because their pheromone gland that marks their territory is right on their chest.
Oh, it's up in their chest.
Yeah. For the eastern gray and the red kangaroo, eastern gray comes out as a light. We can actually see it as a light pink kind of appearance. And then the red kangaroo, it's like a maroon color. Like if you rub their chest, and if you do rub a male kangaroo's chest, they will let you do it. But then they sometimes get a little like overexcited. So I don't recommend doing it.
It's foreplay. I see.
Well, they're just like, because they rub that on the female all the time.
Speaking as a female of a species that doesn't get marked, which I appreciate, but other female species that do, I will take having chest goop on me rather than being sprayed. Right. Like if a male's gonna like claim the females, like I'll take a little pink chest goo rather than like being pissed on.
Well, then there's don't say they don't do that.
Oh goody.
But
our kangaroo lovelies.
Now the thing that's weird about the western gray kangaroo though is you can't see it. It's not really like very visible to our eyes like the other two are, but you can smell it. It smells exactly like maple syrup. It's so weird. It's so weird.
Is this like beavers make vanilla, kangaroos make maple syrup?
Maple syrup smells with their I don't know if it tastes like maple syrup, but it sure
smells. I'm not going there. And for everyone who doesn't know, yes, beaver ass glands is where the vanilla flavor comes from.
Well, the original.
Yeah, there's some synthetic. Well, they can get it from vanilla plants now. But originally, if you want the really, really good stuff, you're looking at beaver butt. Yum.
Yes.
But the kangaroos are maple syrupy.
Yeah, and it would be weird because the western grays in the summertime, if the flies were bad in the season, would just be covering their chest because they couldn't tell.
They're like, get me some of that sweet, sweet maple syrup.
Yeah, they just like, this must be sugar. Because and they were called the stinky kangaroos in Australia because they don't have maple trees, so they had no like good flavored thing to associate with the smell.
Oh, okay. They're just like that
over sweet smell. Yeah, so they're the stinky one. Now you were talking about the classifications, and actually, I was thinking of all the macropodidae, and really, the thing is, so you got the main ones that we think of as kangaroos. But then you got the quokkas and the podaroos and betongs and things of that. So those guys basically get down to like rat size.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I like is
it's just a fun.
So they're all marsupials, and when they're born, like when the big kangaroos are born, they're like the size of a gummy bear and even look like one a little bit.
They really do. Like as they're crawling out of their mother's uterus, which is what they're doing. They are crawling out.
Yes.
They don't have like a back. Like they're like a head with kind of like blind eyes, these two little alien-like little hands as they're crawling out. And then the back is just kind of a little squiggle.
And the mom just kind of licks a trail to help guide, but doesn't actually, because if she
it come from the uterus into the pouch, attached to a nipple.
They're basically like a late stage embryo, really. Well,
because just between we're going to go into this too because it's more complicated. Yeah. But if you go from conception to leaving the womb, so to speak, the cloaca, because they have a cloaca, it's only about 4 weeks.
I got stories on that.
It's only about 4 weeks. It's
4 weeks
pretty,
of pregnancy. Kind of.
So kind of, yeah. There's always an asterisk. That's what I said. If everything is like
now, fine. As I was saying, that gummy bear jelly bean size is the size of the big ones. The potaroos and betongs, which are basically let's see,
grain of rice.
We have kangaroo rats. Those are called, or we have
kangaroo they're kangaroo rats or rat kangaroos.
Then there's also a rat kangaroo, which is what a betong is. So
yes.
So that's not confusing at all. One's a marsupial, one's not.
You're the one who chose to do all of them today.
Right. So, but they're the size of when they're born, they're the size of a cooked grain of rice. Very, very tiny. Very, very hard to see it happen. In all my time, I never did catch an actual birth happening. We caught a few signs like she's kind of sitting weird, but we never caught the actual moment.
She's sitting like maybe something's crawling out of her and crawling up her fur into her pouch.
You don't want to interrupt it because she will jump and then the baby's gone. So if it's not already,
she's got an emergency backup most of the time.
Yeah. So
this is where we get into the fun part. So she does most of the time. Females have an emergency backup. Wait, what does that mean? Does it have to do with the triple vagina?
It kind of, but they also go through embryonic diapause.
They do that.
So a lot of animals can get one side of the one uterus versus the other uterus, I should say, pregnant. So dogs get them both pregnant at the same time.
Those are fallopian tubes.
Or fallopian tubes. What am I talking about? No, yeah.
You said uterus.
Did I say uterus?
Yes, you did.
Pass it. I want fallopian tubes. So
all right. So where are the fallopian tubes? Okay, so it goes ovaries to fallopian tubes. The fallopian tubes fuse to a little sac-like thing that the baby,
matures into. But
matures in. That is uterus.
Well, that's for placental mammals. Remember, these are not.
Yes, that is for placental mammals. So now these guys are marsupial mammals, so they have 3 vaginas. One cloaca. Try and picture this with me. One cloaca that a lot of stuff comes out of.
So the cloaca is the common opening. We aren't used to it because we are placental mammals. So we have a butthole and a pee hole and
a childbirth.
And a childbirth.
Reproductive.
Yeah.
Except if you're a guy, because you don't get that. Because
I was going to say, the guys, we merge those two together.
Now merge them all together.
The cloaca merges the butthole and all that together.
All of it.
The thing is, so a lot of animals do have the multiple different pathways, so that's not as unusual, but not all animals can do embryonic diapause. And embryonic diapause is literally taking a
fertilized
forming embryo, and I want to say it happens
about 100 cells.
Yeah, it's like somewhere in the blastos, like the really early 100 cell thing.
Right
and
there.
The mom just goes, you know what? I'm too stressed right now to have this.
It doesn't look like it's going to be a good harvest. Yeah, I'm not going to eat that well. You know what? Let's just pause on this. Yeah. And her body will physically pause the development of this embryo until it's a better time.
Yeah. So, and it's basically directly related to stress hormones. So it's obviously not them making a conscious decision. Okay, it's just, am I stressed? I'm stressed. I'm stressed.
Right. I'm stressed. So what they do with is there are so the kangaroo male has a 2-pronged penis.
Yes.
So this is complex. You need a picture. I need a diagram.
The thing is, a lot of things have 2-pronged penises.
There's 3 areas of the inside of the female. One is where a baby is maturing.
Correct.
And then there are like 2 side passages.
Yes.
That the male can deposit sperm in.
Yes.
And then it will fertilize in a different area.
Yes.
Where it will fertilize, and then that's where the very, very beginnings of the gestation happen. And so there can be one about to gestate while one is developing in that womb area, like our what we think of as a uterus. So once that guy's ejected and onto a nipple, the next one is still paused
until
Yeah, but it's ready. It's ready to go down into the more
Yep.
uterus area and develop more. But the one baby's on the nipple. So actually, a female can kind of be like, she can be breastfeeding a yearling, or well, I guess they stop breastfeeding up at about like 9-10 months. 9-10 months is
No,
when they get kicked
that's
out of
wrong.
the
That's wrong.
pouch. No?
That's wrong. It's
Okay.
a year and a half to 2 years of breastfeeding.
Okay. So she's got one out of the pouch, she's still
Yeah.
breastfeeding, which one nipple is making a different type of milk for that one.
They
Then
stay
she's
in
got
the
another.
pouch for the big ones. They stay in the pouch 9 months to a year.
Okay. So then there's one in the pouch,
Yes.
and then there's one in the chamber, so to speak.
Yes. So they can have like the 3 ready to go, so that they're constantly. But it's because they aren't. It is riskier, so they have to constantly be ready. Now, I do want you to realize there's a few things I want to clarify. They have the 2-pronged penis, and they have a lot of things have the 2-pronged penis. It's not because of the multiple vagina thing, though.
Oh, it's not. Okay. I assumed it matched well.
No, nope. It still
kind of
goes
like
in
a jigsaw,
one
like,
thing.
ooh, here's 2 vaginas on the side to hold sperm and a 2-pronged penis. Which I also read, you're going to have to help me. I read that they ejaculate double the amount of a boar. And I know a boar ejaculates gallons.
And it's for the same reason. And it's also why a boar has the like weird fucked up penis.
I can't say I've seen a boar penis.
They have
another thing on my reading
list.
They
use what is called a seminal plug.
Ah, yes. Okay.
So one of those is actually injecting sperm. The other one is injecting the seminal plug. So first the sperm goes in, and then the seminal plug goes in. And that does is makes it sure that no other male can impregnate her.
Can impregnate, yes.
And it causes a mess. I had one.
Or, I don't know, you could just stick around and take care of her and the babies, and maybe then it won't happen.
No, well, they do, but if the next male beats them up and takes over, then
yeah.
So they but it causes a mess, and it's a bloody mess. And I remember one time there was a staff member just like, oh my God, there's blood everywhere. But we had a report that there was breeding action going on in that field. It's all around the cloaca. There's blood everywhere. We're like, it's okay. It's okay. No, you got to come out to the field right now. We're like, no, it's fine. It's fine. We'll explain.
I'm not sure she considers it fine, but okay.
Yeah. We'll explain what happened when you get back. And then they get back. We had to explain the birds and the bees and how seminal plugs make a lot of blood because it starts to harden before they pull out. So
so the bleeding's on his end?
No.
On her end?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Imagine rubber cement getting ripped out of your vagina.
Oh, because I'm kind of thinking it around the head of a penis, but if they don't really have a bigger head, then maybe they slide out of it.
It inserts all the way. I mean, we're talking like a pretty long carrot. It looks a little bit like a carrot going in. And so, yeah, think of that. And then basically the last bit coming out is what kind of tears and rips and stuff.
That's Plus, no fun.
Kangaroos just have violent sex. We had a few females.
I don't know. I watched a video and the chick just kept eating. She was like, oh, hello. And she just kept munching.
But you haven't seen some of the stuff that I saw. Like, when we had one, the male just got too vigorous and just started clawing the hell out of her while breeding.
Oh, poor thing.
Because they can pick her up. And we had to like stitch her pouch back together because she was just lacerated on the front side.
Oh.
Then we had one boy because we sent them out to the bachelor field and they were still pretty young. And some bunch of the big males just started gangbanging them. And we had to bring him in because he was basically almost died. He almost died out of that incident. Ooh. Yeah, no, kangaroo sex is violent. It can happen where it's just like, oh, I'm still going. That's not how it goes most of the time. It is they pick up the female, they just start going to town, they do whatever they want. And if there's a young male, the big males will do it to them because remember the only real difference between the appearance is size. So the little boys look like females to them.
And the boys have the cloaca too.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So this was also another one. Okay. Does anyone remember the movie There's Something About Mary? How did you get the beans above the wiener? You got the beans above the wiener? How did you?
The beans above the frank. The beans above the frank. Yeah.
Beans above the frank. Yeah. Yes. And it was like, that's kangaroos. Their beans are significantly higher than the frank.
And it's almost like it's not like a little bit higher. Yeah, it's like where the belly button would be, but remember they're marsupials, so they don't have a placenta, so they don't have an umbilical cord.
No,
but
so
basically, like it's like a foot or more above where their penis is where the testicles are. Now, before we get into this, we'll go back into the cloaca thing. Well, we're talking about balls, so I'm going to tell a story about one of the times that I was working in the field.
One of the stories about kangaroo balls.
We had this Eastern gray male, and he was a huge boy. He was like 6'5" or something like that. Well,
you would often see him glistening in the sun, showing off his muscles.
No, he was just standing. He would just stand there, and I came in one time like, all right, I'm coming in, because you talk to them so that they know you're coming in, so they don't get surprised when you open the field door. And
you stomp your feet, be like, boom, boom, boom.
And I see him just staring at me. And the thing is, balls for men can elongate or shrink, usually for temperature control is what it really is for. Because if you want them warmer, they go closer to the body. The thing is, the muscle tendon.
Sperm is a very touchy material. Well,
the muscle tendon that holds these testicles is very long. So he like a belly button thing, and he's holding it in the palm of his hand up to his mouth, just licking it, and then just staring at me, making hard eye contact. He's like, "All right, buddy. All right."
You think you've been in uncomfortable situations, but you've never had someone licking their own testicles and eyeballing you.
Yes. They're like, all right, buddy, whatever.
Well then. Yeah. Oh, okay.
So he just
delightful.
Chilled, and I went about my business, cleaned the yard, and
you're like, and a good day to you, sir.
Good day to you, because kangaroos they exude liquid from their nose and mouth to cool things off, because they don't sweat like we do. So they basically will put it on their arms, and also
they'll lick their own arms to kind of cool themselves down.
It's not exactly spit or whatever; it evaporates pretty well. So it cools. So obviously his balls were hot. So he
was licking his balls to cool them down.
So
gotta keep that sperm at that optimal temperature for swimmers.
Yeah. So let's go back to that cloaca thing, because all these things have cloacas, which is a common opening for. I mean, they technically have different pathways all the way into the body, but they all come out. They all join up at the cloaca, like birds, reptiles. Honestly, placental mammals are the weird ones that have separate. But
I mean, you can look at it as in it's a little bit cleaner, so to speak, for our offspring.
For what just it all comes down to the way that we give birth.
And kangaroos, it's very interesting looking at a diagram. So they have that kind of 3-chambered vagina type thing.
Yeah.
Their renal canals come through the openings.
Yep.
Into the cloaca. So actually, if they were to give birth, they would probably tear their renal canals so that they can't, give birth to like a larger creature. They really can't do more than that jelly bean size without doing some serious internal damage.
A bunch of changes have to happen to animals before you can get into placental type stuff, because that's why the babies are very tiny for these little guys, because that's what marsupials did. They're like, okay, we're not going to have eggs, but we're going to give live birth, but it's still going to need to be taken care of. And that,
extremely long time. Yeah.
And the thing is so if you go and lift the tail of a kangaroo, you will not find a butthole.
No butthole.
Because the cloaca is up in the front, kind of where a penis would be or a vagina would be. But the butthole is completely clear. And I have this one moment that was back in the day when we had to use a different vet than we normally did, because the vet that we had contracted was on vacation or something. So he said, hey, go to this place, which was just your run-of-the-mill dog and cat vet.
And he lifts the tail and goes, where is the butthole?
Well, so it was a she, and it was.
I'm sure she took.
No, it was the new doctor. So the doctor who has worked with the kangaroos, even this guy had done it. But then he has the what are they? Not the intern. It's like the
fresh out of school kind of
resident. He has a veterinary resident, and he has her doing the vitals. So she goes to go get the
temperature.
She lifts the tail, goes, and then goes and then she pauses, looks down, And she
There
was
was
a
no
bit
butthole.
of a bitch because sometimes people who are doctors are assholes because they think they're cocky as fuck.
We are
Anyway,
not.
yeah. So
No, we
she does it
totally are.
again. She lifts the tail, expecting to find
Like
something.
what, she missed it the first time?
Right.
Like,
A-
it's
And then
Hogwarts. Whoop! There it's back!
and then I'm like about to say something. I'm like, oh, they have a, and but right before I get that, my boss stiff arms me,
There's no
shuts me
way.
up, and goes, no, she can figure it out. The look of just utter pissed off that vet gave.
The hazing rituals of vets. No, give it a second.
I was like, all right, whatever. But
So
yeah,
that is how a vet would take a temperature is the cloaca, because it's an internal temperature, right?
yeah, we basically, I mean, it's just like putting it through the butthole. It's just, I mean, and the thing is, though, you have to actually put it in the butthole. You can't just do it through the other parts because they won't have the right temperature. You have to get into the cloaca and then find the anus and then
into the anus. Yeah, because okay, yeah, interesting.
So
horrifying.
Once you know what you're doing, it's not as big a deal, but you have to figure out it's different.
Please tell me, was the kangaroo asleep, sedated?
Oh yeah,
possibly?
kangaroo was sedated.
Okay. Just
it was that one was, and actually that one was a wallaby. It was a redneck wallaby or
under 45 pounds.
A Bennett's
Jen
wallaby.
learned something.
Yeah, or a Bennett's wallaby, which is one of the larger wallabies. I worked with agile wallabies, which are one of the ones that you find outside of Australia. I want to say you can find them as far north as Thailand, but the reason that they're up there is suggested that it's probably from humans
moving them around.
Around for whatever reason, not a natural islanding.
So another fabulous thing I found out, and I am the owner of a 4-year-old mother. I don't know, owner sounds it's about the same thing. I was like, female kangaroos, the joey that's in the pouch, because the little guy that's in the pouch, their babies are called joeys. If she's stressed or upset, she can use like ab muscles and close the pouch and hold it closed. Like if she's got to make a getaway, she can like lock it down and run with it. Okay, now mothers.
But the other side
imagine of it having a timeout stool, like a timeout spot.
Yep.
In your belly. That would be amazing. You're going in the pouch. Either you eat those veggies and stop screaming this restaurant, or you're going in the pouch. I'm locking you in the pouch. And no one can see what's going on. No one can see you just sitting there with your belly moving and be like, you need another 5 minutes, or are you done? Are you done?
They have a full sphincter on the top that can expand a very wide to fit up to a 15. Now remember, the female can be as light as 45 pounds, and that joey she's carrying around can be as heavy as 15. So towards the end phase, she's carrying around a third of her body weight. Yeah, and so you also say that. That's close to getting evicted. Though, is a lot of times if they're very stressed, they just open the pouch and dump the joey.
And let the predator eat
the baby while they run away.
Well, I mean, they are a proven breeding female versus I guess evolutionarily, I guess
one of the tricks that we had, if we had a female that was stressing out too much, we would actually take duct tape and tape her pouch shut, so she couldn't
reject the joey.
Yeah. Oh. We would try to see. I mean, and basically what we would hope is that we give them enough time that they calm down, and then they keep the joey.
They're back.
Yeah, okay. If the joey, that first like month or so, if the joey falls off at all, because when they literally like kind of almost fuse with the nipple. Their mouth is the same size as that nipple. Okay. And it will. They will basically are attached. It's hard to tell. You can see them dangling off the end of it because it's just a little pink thing on a little pink thing.
Imagine a jelly bean attached to your pinky finger.
Right. Until then, but then eventually they can remove and nurse it when they want. Now, here's a fun fact, though, that you don't think about. The mom keeps it clean.
The nipple?
The whole
or the pouch. Baby? Oh, the whole pouch?
Yes. So they take their head, they shove it in the pouch, they lick everything clean because the joey's been drinking milk for 3 months straight.
Oh, he's pooping in there.
Pooping and shitting, pissing and pooping, yeah. So she has to eat and lick all that up.
Okay, never mind. I would rather a timeout spot than the timeout pouch I had to clean the shit out of.
Yeah, we had never mind. Trained to show that off. She would put her head in and then like stretch her pouch out because they just take their paws and stretch it. And that's what they do when they clean, but we trained her to do it on cue so we could show people what it looked like. And she was more than happy to do it. And the other thing with their nipples is they produce a different type of milk throughout the process, which actually, I mean, that's pretty normal.
Yeah, but I thought it was cool. Is like one nipple could be producing stuff for the Joey out of the pouch, while another nipple's producing a different type of milk for the Joey in the pouch.
If you think about it, and I ran into this before, one of the Joeys ended up, he looked like a little rock star because he was missing his 2 middle fingers because his older sibling accidentally ate them off when nursing.
Thought he was a nipple?
Yeah, I mean, they're right there.
Yeah,
he just accidentally nipped them. And I mean, they're so tiny and minute, it didn't take much.
Yeah.
So, but generally that doesn't happen because the nipple that the tiny baby's on is way down at the bottom of the pouch. And as the different milk and as the nursing process goes, that nipple grows. So it starts off like maybe a quarter inch, and then it like is actually like 6, 7, 8 inches long. So that
7-inch nipple.
So that way it's at the top of the pouch for the one that's just dipping their head in to continue nursing.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, I can see that.
So they tend to have a very high fat, energy laden milk for the one out of pouch who's actively doing stuff, and then they have a very lean milk for the one that's just kind of growing and developing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good thing they have the beans at the belly button, otherwise you could get them confused with a nipple
and also
that size.
That makes it hell when we are hand raising them, which we'd have to do occasionally if they got rejected, or we had one that we didn't realize it was a problem until we realized that the Joey was blind because he came out of the pouch and we found out he was blind. Well, it turned out his mom had a mastitis, so he wasn't getting quite the right nutrients. And then, so we had to finish bottle feeding him the rest of his time. But some of the damage was done because of the early lack of nutrients, and also impossible infection. For those out there, mastitis is an infection of the mammary gland and the whole like process there. So it can, it can be in the nipple. It can be,
it can move. It can move up the nipple or up the milk ducts.
Yeah, and
it can.
Kangaroos do not like it when you have to work on that. Because
I was gonna say nobody
likes that because it's basically basically is an abscess in the breast, and the one thing that you have to do, you use antibiotics, but also you have to massage and try to break up that keratinous material. And
it's big and swollen and hot, and it's
yes. So there's been many a time where I had my hand in a kangaroo's pouch, and I was
massaging the mastitis out.
I was one of the primary ones who could actually handle
gain their trust.
No, not trust. Oh no, I was large enough to physically
to kind of be like, no, have to do this.
Yeah, I'm basically pinning them down, have their legs kicking so that they can't hit me, and I'm holding them. And I think that's actually how I got my hernia. But one of those times, and then basically have a hand in the pouch and just massage it while they're angry and fighting. Yeah, and then I carry them back to their thing. They're like,
enclosures. They're going, I hate this guy.
Yeah.
Wow. Yep. Okay, so I have a suggestion. So we're not even halfway through all the awesome stuff. I still want to talk about their locomotion, and I still want to talk about their eating, because their eating is incredible. Do we want to make this a 2-part episode?
I mean, yeah, we can talk about that. We'll see how
do we want to pause and say, hey, this is their genitalia. Great episode. Ew, scary, yuck. You want to do that or no?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. We can do that. Do we want to call it here? I don't know. In the audience, and we can't tell those people. They're
in the future. Yes, this has not been released yet, but I'd like to think of you as I put up little raisinets on my desk so I can see my little fans.
Yeah. No, I didn't even think this was going to go long, but I do have a lot of like weird little side informations.
Well, and I mean, if we compare their genitalia to something more mammalian, well, not mammalian, placental that we're kind of used to, this is very different. Yeah, this is some alien.
There's nothing that's close to this, because all the things that were in between, we don't even know where that is.
Wait till we do a monitoring episode.
Well,
Eggs
yeah. And the thing
inside.
is, a monotremes is still more similar to a
Marsupial?
marsupial
Or
than it is to a placental.
oh yeah,
As
definitely.
far as the way the ducks and all the cloaca and all the way that everything's arranged, we'll say that it's still
So
very
yeah,
different. But
so placentals and marsupials share a common ancestor.
somewhere, but we don't know where it is.
Yeah, we don't have the records of it.
Yeah. Well, we know where each one kind of started.
Okay, because we're
Because
talking what 40 million years ago.
I can't remember.
Something like
Now
that.
you're
That's
talking
a lot.
numbers, but I do remember it was
Long
from the
time
same
ago.
class we shared, comparative coordinate anatomy, because there was a
Mm-hmm.
big question that we had to answer that took up like a page and a half that was describe the evolution split between marsupials and placentals. But basically, both started in North America, or not North America, Europe
Mm-hmm.
kind of region. But this is back in like I can't remember if it's full Pangea or somewhere after. But anyway, they were
Yeah,
started there.
it was after Pangea because there was another supercontinent after Pangea that I heard the name of today, and I went, "What?"
Yeah, there. Well, yeah,
There are a
it was
few.
somewhere in the tectonic thing, but
Yeah.
before Australia went off on its own. So marsupials started in Europe, then spread all over, and that's why we
Mm-hmm.
have them in South America, North America.
They used to be everywhere, but
They used to
us
be
damn
everywhere.
placentals seem to
Yep, and
outcompete them.
then however many millions of years later, placentals show up around the same general kind of. Well, when I say general, I mean like Europe, somewhere up in there. And then they start spreading based on the fossil records, and we can tell because of the pelvis is different because of the lack of cloaca and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they spread out, but before they could hit Australia,
Australia and South
Australia
America.
was too far away.
Yeah, and
So
South
they couldn't
America
out.
was pretty far away. And
But
what's
America
actually
had
kind
them.
of South America had a lot of marsupials. It wasn't until
No,
North
South America still
America.
had 7 of them.
Well, yeah, but it was actually Australia and South America both were flooded with marsupials. It wasn't until North
Right.
America and South America collided again because
Yep.
they broke apart. They collided again that the placentals moved into South America, killed
Well, they
outcompeted
didn't
most of the
kill them. They
marsupials,
outcompeted.
outcompeted,
Outcompeted.
murdered. And
Murder.
then,
Murder
but
for
North
starvation.
America, this is where we get our one glorious, wonderful marsupial from, the possum.
Well, actually, no.
It was the only
Wait.
one that migrated up from South America.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I
you
know
said
I'm
it.
right.
I missed the part where you said it migrated back up. Yes.
Yeah, no, it migrated back up. All the other mammals and placentals, excuse me, that
Yep.
you find because marsupials are mammals.
And there
But
is a difference between possum with no O and an
an
opossum with an
opossum.
O. Opossum is here in the North and South America. Possums are in Australia and are
Different.
have similarities, but they're different. They're way different.
But we still call them possums because we don't know how to speak our own language.
Right.
Okay, anyway, so that'll be part 1, and
Okay.
I think we should
Call
should
it here
do
and continue on. We'll do kangaroos next week.
yes.
More. I got more things to talk about them.
So this is the reproduction, and yeah, they're crazy cool. So yeah, possums.
All right.
Yeah, kangaroo.
I guess until next time. What the fauna?
Yeah, what the fun? We'll fill in the rest next time. So this is Gerard signing off. Remember, no gods, no masters.
And Whitney. What the fauna?
What?